Nano machine. Bai, ang Hongweolja. Chapter 75, Pay It Forward for More, Part 1. A normal person would never experience getting their face stuck in the ground. Yumpa got his thoughts straight when a powerful force pushed him into the ground. He almost passed out from the severe pain radiating throughout his entire face as the rocks and dirt were stuck in his face. He felt the blood pouring out from all over his face. Erf. Yoan then pulled up Yumpa's head again. His face was all crushed up. His front teeth were dangling and his broken nose was pointed at a weird angle. Yumpa was in too much pain to realize that every part of his face was all messed up now. Arg. When he could breathe again, Yumpa formed up his thoughts and was able to barely speak. This is too much. I didn't even start. Keek. Yumpa paled. He felt like he would die after getting pinned into the ground once, but it seemed like that was only the beginning. Yoan grabbed his hair again and Yumpa quickly shouted, Do you think Chanu-chan will let you go free after doing this? He had to hide the person behind all this, but he just spilled it. Of course, Yoan already knew that Yumpa was working for Chanu-chan. Chanu-chan, will do what? Yumpa thought he had made a mistake in saying that, but it was too late. He now had to hope for Yoan to be afraid of Yu-chan. Chanu-chan was one of the strongest cadets in the academy, so most of the cadets did fear him anyway. But I don't care. What? Yumpa's plans were going south from the very beginning. It seemed like he had made Yoan angrier by saying this. Did you think I would get scared if you spoke of Chanu-chan's name? Suddenly, something popped up in Yumpa's thoughts. Wait. I heard Chun Yoan destroyed all of Chun Jongsum's bones. Chun Yoan's infamous action reached the climax when he took Chun Jongsum out. Yumpa then regretted saying Yu-chan's name. If Yoan feared the other princes, he would not have done such a thing to Chun Jongsum. You should watch out for yourself first. And it doesn't matter. He's my next target anyway. Huh? Next? Arg. Yumpa's head was thrown down again. It was the second time, so maybe he would have gotten used to it, but that wasn't the case. Yumpa moaned with bubbles coming out of his mouth and soon passed out. At least Yoan did it very carefully so he wouldn't crush Yumpa's head completely. Yoan then looked down at Yumpa with a disgusted expression and shook his head. Ko Wonger then walked up to him. Master, we've defeated everyone. Good. The 11 cadets who were with Ha Ilming were all kneeling down behind Ko Wonger. All of them were injured and shaking in fear. They didn't think things would come down to this just because of what happened last night. And Ha Ilming? He's here. Ko Wonger pointed to a direction and Ha Ilming was kneeling down in front of Bakki. He was glaring at Bakki angrily. If my ribs were fine. Ha Ilming thought he would not have lost that easily if his ribs were okay. But the fight was already over. Yoan went over to Ha Ilming, looking down at him coldly. NNNGHH. Ha Ilming tried to say something, but his blood points had been sealed so he couldn't talk. Thus, he just moaned instead. Although he lost, he still resisted as best he could, so he also had blood points sealed to make him immobile. What do you want? Should I let him talk? Bakki asked. Yoan shook his head. He didn't want to hear anything from him anyway. Then? We pay him back the same way. Pay? Ha Ilming looked up at Yoan with a puzzled expression. Yoan then crouched to be on the same eye level with Ha Ilming and he grabbed his right hand. What is he doing? Ha Ilming's eyes shook at the terrifying thought. Soon, it became a reality. Yoan snapped his finger backwards. NNNNNNNNGH. Ilming moaned and writhed in pain as his finger snapped backwards. Galen and the other 12th group cadets also frowned at the sight. But this was only the start. Yoan proceeded to break and snap all the fingers backward. This crazy bastard. It was so painful that Ha Ilming's face turned beet red and veins popped out of his neck. His eyes were also red, but it was astounding that he didn't cry from pain at least. Why? Is it painful? Yoan asked. Ha Ilming stared daggers Yoan even though he was in such pain. How dare he say that when he just broke my fingers? Yoan did not care about how Ilming was glaring at him and continued. Ojong probably experienced the same amount of pain. No, it must have been more painful for him. Ojong's fingers had been snapped while he got beat up. When Ojong's name came up, Ha Ilming's members began to shake in fear. Did that me? Ha Ilming was busy fighting Bakki at the time, but it was his members that beat up Ojong and broke his fingers. It was now all coming back to them. I'm just paying you guys back the same way. You brought this upon yourself. NNNNGH. Bastard. I will kill you. Ha Ilming was so much in pain, but he still didn't cower. Yoan then smiled and slapped Ilming. NGH. The slap had such power that it almost broke his neck. He couldn't move his body, so his head was thrown back along with his body, and that saved him. If he tried to resist against it, his neck bone would have broken as well. The slap was so powerful that it made Ha Ilming pass out, and Yoan got up and ordered his members, cut their legs and snap all their fingers. Yoan's words split the expressions between the two groups. Yoan's members gleefully smiled for finally getting payback for what happened to Ojong, and in contrast, Ha Ilming's members became pale. We are lucky. Galen was relieved that he had made the right choice. If he had agreed to Yempa's offer, he would have been in the same shoes. That seemed like a terrible end for greedily wanting a yellow tag. That's when Ha Ilming's body began to move. It was strange. Veins began to pop up from underneath the skin, and Ha Ilming's rolled eyes began to turn red. After everything turned red, Ha Ilming roared like a beast and charged at Yoan. Karg! And Master! Hu Bong's scary warning spread across the mountain. Chapter 76, Pay It Forward for More, Part 2. An hour had passed since then. In the space between the 3rd and 4th dormitory buildings, Chun Yuchan and his teammates were practicing the sword demon formation with the 7-demon sword. The 12 members performed the 4th sword formation in unison. It was the same movement that looked like it was something, but it didn't seem to show any special powers or change. This is strange. Yuchan was confused. He did this with the latter part of the 7-demon sword book, but it was a bit weird. He couldn't conclude that it was due to his members not learning 7-demon sword skill, since his teammates were all top-level warriors from the beginning, and they all learned the sword skill pretty quickly. What's the problem? Should we move on? Let's take a break. I think I should read the book in more detail. He wanted to train the sword demon formation earlier than the other teams, but he was put to a stop from the beginning. As Yuchan's words, his teammates sat down and began wiping their sweat. Yuchan then called to a cadet who was watching instead of training with them. It was 100th cadet, Wu Gunpil. What was interesting here was that Gunpil had a yellow tag on his right chest. Yes, Prince. What do you think? How did the sword formation look from the outside? Don't worry. You can tell me the truth. Yuchan assured him, and Gunpil spoke carefully. Honestly, it just looks like everyone doing the same formation at once. I have never seen the sword demon formation, but this probably isn't it. Right? This is weird, the book says. But before Yuchan could finish his words, a cadet shouted at him. Prince! Look! 20 cadets were approaching them. Yuchan's cadets got up. All the cadets who appeared at the empty lot were badly injured. What was interesting was that they all had another cadet on their backs. The one in the front seemed to have taken heavy injuries such that his face was covered in clothes, but it was all bloody, and that made it look disgusting. Chun Yuchan's teammates formed a blockade so that they wouldn't come any closer. After hearing the injured cadet's voice, they let down their guard. It's me, Yumpa. It was the 200th cadet, Yumpa. And behind him were Galen and the former 12th group cadets. It seemed they had been in a serious fight. Yumpa? Yuchan then approached Yumpa with an interested look. Yumpa bowed. Prince, I have fulfilled my duty. Yumpa showed the yellow tag on his right chest. Curious about what happened, Yuchan asked. What happened? Who do you have on your back? Yumpa then placed the cadet on his back on the ground. When he saw the person's face after they fell onto the ground, Yuchan became surprised. Ilming? It was the 108th cadet, Ha Ilming. His face and skin had veins popping out, which looked really ugly. Ugh. Yuchan shook his head as he frowned. Starting with Yumpa, the 12th group members began putting down the cadets they had on their backs. Those who were put down were Yoan's 7 members and Ha Ilming's 11 members. The one Galen put down had a heavily damaged face, and his face so bloody that it was hard to tell who the person was. And who is this? It's the 7th cadet, Chun Yoan. Yuchan's mouth turned into a smile after hearing that. Chun Yoan? What did you do to make him become like that? There was a hint of excitement in his voice as he asked that. We might have lost if it wasn't for Ha Ilming. Yumpa said in embarrassment. Yuchan didn't understand. What are you talking about? If Ha Ilming did not learn the demon art of blood reversion, we would have lost. What? Yuchan was shocked. The demon art of blood reversion was an internal energy flowing skill that multiplied one's internal energy by reversing the blood flow. It looked good on paper, but it had a serious adverse effect. Using it would destroy the user's blood points and take away their sanity. It was a forbidden martial art within the demonic cult because of its dangerousness. He's crazy too then. Yuchan looked down at Ha Ilming. If Ha Ilming had used the forbidden martial art, then it was easy to guess what had happened. He probably went berserk and attacked anyone in his way. Well, you did good work. Honestly speaking, I didn't expect much from you, but this is pretty good. Yuchan complimented Yumpa for the first time. It was great that he had gotten a great victory. He was worried about Chun Yowan after hearing that he had defeated the senior instructor. How about we cut his tendons before sending him to the medical room? Yuchan smiled brightly and walked over to Chun Yowan. Cutting the tendons on his right wrist would be enough to prevent him from using sword skills for a while. Galen then thought, is he trying to do that even in that state? He is terrifying. The blade she shined in Yuchan's right hand, and he smiled as he cut Yowan's right wrist. Haha, at least I don't destroy internal energy like you did. You should thank me. He then looked at Yowan's face. Yuchan, who was excited just up until now, frowned immediately. He blinked his eyes, wondering if he had seen it wrong. He didn't realize it when he first saw it, but looking at the face up close, it wasn't Chun Yowan. Yuchan then felt goosebumps on his skin and mumbled, Yum, Pa? And Yumpa's voice came from behind. You're too late. What is? Arg. Yuchan tried to turn back, but his face was struck and his body was thrown far off to the side. Chapter 77, Pay It Forward for More, Part 3. Prince. It was too sudden. Chun Yuchan was thrown way off to the side and his members shouted in shock. They couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Yumpa quietly walked up to Yuchan's back and struck him, kicking Yuchan way back. Yuchan placed his hand on the ground and couldn't move. It seemed like he was in pain. Yumpa, what is the meaning of this? One of Yuchan's members, and another one with a yellow tag, Ojiran, shouted angrily. She had a long chin with lowered eyebrows gave one a gloomy impression of her. However, she was one of the top 3 female cadets along with Ho Sanghua. You've gone mad. Wu Gunpil also shouted and charged at Yumpa. Then, someone blocked him. A powerful energy-wielding fist crossed against Gunpil's arm pushed him back 3 steps. Gunpil was shocked to see the person standing in front of him. The cadet had thick muscles and body that was twice as big as the other cadets. It was Ko Wonger. He got up quickly from the ground to block him. What? How did you? It's time, friends. Ko Wonger spoke to his members, not turning away from Gunpil. The cadets that were on the ground then got up as if they were fine. That was quick. I thought we had to stay down for longer. Well, the plan worked though. Chun Yuchan's members were bewildered to see Yowan's members getting up and they became furious. Bastards. They now realized that they had been fooled. Yowan's members had blood and dirt all over them, but none of them were injured. Wait, then what about the 12th group? Gunpil then turned to Galen and the other 12th group cadets. They too had pulled out their wooden swords to fight against Yuchan's group. Yumpa! How dare you betray the prince, someone shouted angrily. It was another cadet who also had a yellow tag on his chest. He was Jinyu from Power Fist Clan. He was also muscular, but he was a bit smaller than Ko Wonger. Yumpa betrayed us. Yumpa, you bastard. Yuchan's members all shouted furiously at Yumpa whose face was wrapped up with clothes. It seemed like they didn't trust Yumpa that much from the beginning. Yumpa then shook his head. Then Yumpa took the clothes off his face. Chun Yuchan's members all frowned at the face that was revealed under it. The voice was the same as Yumpa's, but the face inside was an entirely different person. Chun Yowan. It was the 7th cadet, Chun Yowan. Yowan glanced around. What had happened here? It was what happened after Yowan defeated Ha Ilming who went berserk. Ha Ilming charged at Yowan like a beast. Monster. Ha Ilming unleashed a powerful attack with his fingers. His head was turning white, but he wanted to defeat Chun Yowan before he lost his mind. Yet someone had kicked him away before he could even get to Yowan. It was Bakgi. Ha Ilming was so angry at Yowan that he didn't notice Bakgi on the side. Bakgi kicked him away since it was an emergency. Arg. Huh? But this time, it was Bakgi who was thrown away. Ha Ilming's increased internal energy had pushed Bakgi back. You dare interfere with me again. Ha Ilming then became angry at Bakgi and turned to charge at Bakgi who had fallen down, but Yowan did not let him do this. You stay here. He grabbed Ha Ilming's right wrist and Ha Ilming was overconfident about his internal energy. That won't work this time. He attacked by multiplying his internal energy to 100% to fight back. But even then, Chun Yowan's 90 years worth of energy and physical strength that were strong enough to damage a blue pearl stone was not something that could be pushed back. Arg. Ha Ilming was thrown up in the air and was smashed to the ground by his wrist. Karg. Yowan then quickly jumped on top of Ha Ilming and pounded his head. He was in too much of a hurry to overpower Ilming that he couldn't control his power this time. Ha Ilming's head was pushed down further than when he had pinned Yumpa. Hope he didn't die. At least he didn't break the head. With the active demon art, it seemed like Ha Ilming's body had become more powerful than normal. Growling, Ha Ilming's head wasn't destroyed, but with Yoan's fist pounding from above and his back slamming against the ground, it gave him a concussion and Ha Ilming passed out. His plan to strike from behind with the forbidden art had failed. Phew. Yoan's then told him that it was the demon art of blood reversion. Most of the clan members who were trained in their clans knew what had happened to Ha Ilming. It's my first time seeing it. But he learned forbidden art of the cult, he will be expelled, Ko Wonger said as he looked at Ha Ilming. It was a foolish choice as Ha Ilming should have just waited for a future chance to get his revenge. We're done here. We can now send them to the medical room. Ha Ilming and his members had their fingers snapped and right legs broken, so if they were not going to heal before the third test, they were going to be expelled. It's good that we avenged Ojong, but it still doesn't feel that great. Everyone knew what Hubong meant. The person who was behind all of this was still fine. It was terrifying for one man to place all of these people to play under his feet to seek the yellow tag. Chapter 78, Pay It Forward for More, Part 4. It's irksome that we can't do anything when we know the person behind all this. Ugh. The cadets side with Hubong. Chun Yuchan was different from Ha Ilming or Yumpa. It was a known fact that Yuchan himself was at the top of the master level, and he also had 3 members who had entered the master level as well. Yuchan only recruited the finest warriors within the academy, so his forces were the best. It's infuriating, but we are not ready to fight him. If Chen Yuan and Yuchan were to fight, it wouldn't end with a one-on-one fight. It was going to be a bloodbath between the 2 candidates with their forces. We need at least similar numbers and other powerful warriors like Baki if we decide to fight. Zhao Wumin agreed with Ko Wonger. Ho Sanghua then raised her eyebrows and mentioned, if it is against early master levels, Ko Wonger and I can defeat him together. Ko Wonger and Ho Sanghua were on the verge of entering the master level. Given the right lessons, they were almost ready to shape the chi outside their bodies. If you lack a number, we'll help. Galen then offered to work together with them. Yoan's members turned to the 12th group cadets who had proposed to aid them. If they joined forces, then they would outnumber Yuchan's team. Then can we actually deal with Chun Yuchan and the others who masters? Yoan asked. Wonger frowned, yes, but even if master handles Chun Yuchan, 1 master warrior remains. I will take them both. What? Everyone became shocked. Chun Yuan had become very powerful, but fighting against 2 master-level warriors, especially when one was in a fully established state, was too much. The instructors didn't use their own skills, but these enemies were going to use the best skills they had. I didn't say I will get them all at once. Then, Yoan then began explaining his plan. His members had weird expressions on their faces when they heard the plan. Even Ko Wonger, who was the best tactician in the group, didn't seem to think it was possible. They will notice it when they hear the voice. How could they possibly fool them? Covering the face was the easy part, but the problem was the voice. Of course, if it was going to work, then it would make them vulnerable. An hour later, Yoan really did fool them. It's me, Yumpa. Yoan's members almost flinched when they heard Yoan impersonating Yumpa's voice. What? How did he do that? Everyone was shocked to hear Yoan's amazing ability. They didn't know how he did it, but his voice was exactly like Yumpa's voice. This fooled everyone, including Chun Yuchan. Thankfully, it allowed Chun Yuchan to stay away from his group. Nano, deactivate the voice mimicking. Yes, master. It was Nano's ability. Nano worked on Yoan's vocal cords to make him sound exactly like Yumpa. Yoan had learned this ability after checking what Nano could do when he was in the prison cave. This isn't my voice yet. Okay. Here we go. What? His voice is changing. All the cadets, regardless of which side they were on, became shocked when they heard Yoan's voice changing from Yumpa's to his own. That bastard learned some evil magic. Jinyu became furious when he realized that they had been fooled by a voice and charged at Yoan. The fist had a faint chi light, showing that his power had reached master level. Yoan glared at him. Yin Ew. No. Gunpil tried to stop him, but he was already in front of Yoan. Chun Yuan's power was already within the top 5 out of all the cadets. If he really is Chun Yuan, then you are no match. He couldn't say this out loud. Yoan made a sword movement with his finger and easily blocked Jin Yu's powerful fist attack. How did he counter it so easily? Yoan reached out toward Jin Yu's chest and snatched the yellow tag off his chest. I'm taking this. Be bastard. Jinyu gritted his teeth and put up his two fists, trying to pin Chun Yuan down. Before his attack reached Yuan, his chest was struck by Yuan's fist. It was just a simple jab, but his chest bones were fractured and he was pushed back about 10 steps. If it wasn't for his sturdy muscles that covered him like armor, he would have died. Arg. However, it seemed like he had taken some internal energy damage and coughed up blood. Since he was a master-level warrior, he didn't fall to one punch. He's stronger than Ha Ilming. After all, he was one of the talented cadets that Yu Chan had chosen. He was too powerful for his members other than Baki to handle. I have to finish him before Yu Chan recovers. Yuan then tried to charge at Jinyu to finish him, but that was when Nano's voice resounded in his head. Detected strong incoming energy source 60 meters behind the user. Yuan then turned as he knew what the energy was and he shouted to all of his members and the 12th group cadets. Get down. All cadets then got down on the ground without realizing why, and the white blade chi flashed past them at once. What? Chi? They might have been all killed if it was too late. The blade chi flew straight at Chun Yuan. White light followed Yuan's finger in the shape of a sword. Using all his sword chi, Yuan slashed down on the blade chi that was thrown at him. Chapter 79, Pay It Forward for More, Part 5. The blade chi disappeared from the center where it was cut. The cadets who saw this were dumbfounded. He threw the blade chi. He cut the chi. Throwing chi from a certain range required one to be at least a top master. To cut such chi, that also required an equal amount of strength. This exchange was way beyond the level of the ordinary cadets. Chun Yu-chan. Yuan glared at Chun Yu-chan who was standing with the white light blade chi in his hand. Yu-chan responded, "Oh, well, I wanted to pay you back with an ambush too. That didn't work out so well." Chun Yu-chan flexed his neck. He spoke as if it was nothing, but the powerful shock stunned him for quite a while up until now. The area still felt numb. "You finally got back? That was slow." Yuan provoked him and Yu-chan frowned. "So, you waited for me? The first attack was just payback for playing tricks. I don't want to hear people saying I won because I ambushed you." This was a fight between the heirs. Claiming victory after a surprise attack would surely not be favorable at all. Yu-chan was confused by Yuan's words. "Ha! You are as arrogant as ever. You think you won by defending against my chi?" Yu-chan, however, was actually shocked that Yuan had done it. He grows way too fast. Yuan was still very weak when Yu-chan first met him in front of the private training room a few days ago, but this was more than what he had imagined. At this rate, he was going to surpass Yu-chan himself. Should I have cut his arm then? Yu-chan regretted that he didn't cut Yuan's arm back then. That mistake had brought this on to him. Therefore, all he needed to do was one thing. I will take his arm before he grows stronger. Chun Yu-chan then became serious and readied himself. His auras changed. Yuan also activated his internal energy to be ready. This was a fight between master-level warriors. The air changed. Ko Wonger looked at both leaders. Their plan was to have Chun Yuan fight Yu-chan while Yuan's members defeated Yu-chan's members. However, this just became a duel between the leaders. If this was the case, all they had to do now was wait for Chun Yuan to win. "Master, you have to win this or else you will lose the competition itself." All the cadets focused on the two leaders. They became anxious, hoping their leader would win. Chun Yu-chan moved first. He bolted out like lightning to close in on Chun Yuan. It was faster than anything that the cadets had ever seen. Yu-chan jumped up and unleashed the second formation of his blade skill, Blade of Illusion, the giant slash of the elusive blade. Ha! It was a simple strike-down formation, but the power within it was massive. The power came down upon Yuan would cleave him into two. So, this is the blade skill of the Blade clan. Right Guardian Submang's butterfly blade dance was probably equal in strength. Yuan hesitated, wondering if he should fight with a blade skill or a sword skill. He chose the latter. "I have to fight with all I have against an equally matched opponent." Yuan then gathered his fingers to unleash the sword chi. He had tried to brandish the chi over his wooden sword before, but the wood couldn't endure the chi. Sword? Yu-chan was surprised to see Yuan using a sword instead of a blade. He thought he had made a mistake when he saw Yuan cutting his chi a while ago, but it was surely a sword. Chun Yuan's sword chi clashed with Yu-chan's attack. Both chi struck against one another and let out a spark. What is he thinking? Yu-chan narrowed his eyes. He expected something great when Yuan did not use the butterfly blade dance, but the sword movement was too simple. However, it was weird that these movements were very familiar. But my blade of illusion does not stop here. Yuan thought he had countered Yu-chan's attack when Yu-chan's blade chi twisted in a weird way. Yuan quickly used his chi to defend, but the energy pushed him back. He was pushed back about 6 steps. As Yuan was pushed back, Yuchan's members shouted in excitement. Waha! Yuan's members turned grim. They didn't think Yuchan was this strong. They then thought that Yuchan was perhaps powerful enough to be accepted by Ho Jincheng also. He has a bit more internal energy than me, Yuan thought. With the Black Dragon Ball, Yuchan now had about 100 years worth of internal energy. His formation is weird too. Yuchan's blade skill had odd attack angles. It was understandable as to why it was called illusion. It was so weird that one would get fooled into looking elsewhere when fighting against it. That right arm? Yuchan's right arm muscles were also developed. It was developed to use a blade in such a weird way. You are lucky. I was going to cut your arm with that. Yuchan smiled. He really would have achieved that with the previous attack if Yuan had reacted a little slower. Yuchan then pointed at Yuan with the hand that had the blade chi. Stop with that stupid sword skill and come at me with the butterfly blade dance. Stupid, sword skill. Chapter 80, Pay It Forward for More, Part 6. Yuan raised his eyebrows as he was offended. You think I would not notice what sword skill you are using? Ha 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 ha. Yuan frowned. He was using the sword movements of the counter sword skill that was left on the blue pearl stone pedestal. Did he recognize this? Yuchan shook his head and continued, I guess you also mixed up the 7 demon sword like the instructors did, but that won't work against me. Yuan felt relieved after hearing that, but he was also dumbfounded. If Yuchan had mistaken the counter sword skill as the 7 demon sword, maybe that sword skill was left there by the sword demon. I'm warning you. 5 formations. What? If you keep using the 7 demon sword, I will cut out your right arm within 5 formations. I'm fine with that, but I don't like to hear that I won against a fool. Yuchan was repeating what Yuan said at first. The counter sword movement that was left on the pedestal was very plain compared to the sword movement of the sword force of the sky demon. Unless it was combined as one formation, its power didn't come out easily either. It seemed like his sword movement was underestimated due to that reason. Yuan became silent for a second and spoke with a serious voice. You are confident. Then how about we place a bet? A bet? Yeah. Didn't you say you could cut my arm in 5 formations? Yuchan became confused at the sudden offer of placing a bet. What is he playing at? He was fooled once by the Yumpa trick, so he thought Yuan had another one up his sleeve. But if he wanted to play tricks in front of all these cadets while dueling, that was going to discredit him as a candidate. Yuchan smiled. Let's see what you have to say. If I win, I will take all of your yellow tags. People began to mumble. He's gone mad. Give all his tags? Dumb tricks. Yuchan's team members were outraged. Wanting all those tags meant that Yuan was basically telling them to give up on the 3rd test. It was bound to make them mad. So, that's what you wanted? Yuchan shook his head. He had expected as such, and it seemed like Yuan was telling him to finish this once and for all. Yuchan pondered on it for a while and then came up with an idea. Then I too will take your tag if I win. Since I have 4 tags and you have only 1, I will take your servant, Baki, too. Yuchan seemed to be satisfied by his condition, and Baki was shocked. He didn't know Yuchan still hadn't given up on taking him in. Yuchan was very adamant on recruiting the right people. How's that? Baki frowned. If Yuan lost here, then Baki would have no choice but to serve Yuchan. Damn it. Are you really okay with this? Baki looked at Yuan's eyes. He looked to see if Yuan was confident enough for this, but there was no fear or concern in his eyes. Baki then felt like he could trust him and nodded. Good. Then it sounds good enough. Yuchan was satisfied by the fact that he wouldn't lose anything. If Yuan were to fight with the 7 demon sword again, then Yuchan was confident in slicing his arm in 3 formations, not 5. Come. I will let you attack first this time. Yuchan spoke arrogantly. Yuan, however, didn't seem to be provoked. He instead took a step forward coldly. Then he charged at Yuchan. The finger on his hand let out a white light, which was the sword chi. The plain sword movement was similar to the 6th sword of the 7 demon sword. Fool. Your recklessness will lose you an arm, your servant, and your tag. Yuchan scoffed at Yuan in his thoughts. He had read the 7 demon sword book tens of times to fight against the instructors. He knew the weak points like the backyard of his home. Ha! Yuchan then swirled the blade chi on his right hand and unleashed 4th blade formation of his blade of illusion. His blade stormed against Yuan's sword movement. Both movements collided against one another, and Yuchan's eyes began to shake. What? Is this really a 7 demon sword skill? something unexpected began to happen. Chun Yuan's sword movement that started out plainly began to change. The simple sword movement began shifting in weird ways, changing into a powerful sword formation. The change was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake. No, at this rate. Arg. And starting from the fifth movement, it wasn't something Yuchan could defend against anymore. His arms began to move frantically as he tried to defend himself against the onslaught of attacks. He tried to move on to the fifth formation to turn the situation around, but he couldn't find any opening to do so. What? His hand was thrown back before he could even complete the blade movement. He then was sucked into the sword formation storm. Ugh. Various sword formations shot past Yuchan. The sword chi struck his blood points, making blood pour out, and Yuchan's body was thrown from side to side. And as the finisher, when the 24th movement of the formation was about to cut Yuchan's neck, Yuan changed its direction. Away a word. Yuchan screamed in agony. Every cadet who was looking at it couldn't help but stare dumbfoundedly. Something dropped from the air, still squirming as if it was alive. It was Chun Yuchan's right arm. Chapter 81, Pay It Forward for More, Part 7. Cadets from Chun Yuchan's team were positive of their leader's victory. Unlike his usual lazy and casual attitude, Yuchan was the hardworking type. With his exceptional talent and hard work, his growth and strength far exceeded that of his peers. Every one of his teammates knew this and thus trusted him. He dares to fight against our prince with the 7-demon sword? No way, Prince Chun will lose. Fool. You can't win. And the result of the fight was unexpected to say the least. As Chun Yuan's sword chi shot past Yuchan, something dropped onto the ground. It was Yuchan's right arm. Aorarg. Yuchan screamed and fell down to his knees. He endured the severe pain that made him feel like he would pass out to keep the last of his last pride, but he was in a very bad state. I won, Yuan stated as he looked down at Yuchan. And no way. How did he lose? Impossible. Yuchan lost his arm after just one formation exchange. And Yuan twisted the direction of the sword that was originally going toward Yuchan's neck, so Yuan actually even spared his life. Arg. Blood gushed out from the wound where the arm had been cut off. Yuchan's face began to go pale. He quickly pressed his blood points to keep the blood loss to a minimum, but he was in serious condition and he needed immediate medical attention. Prince. Wu Gunpil and the other members on Yuchan's team tried to run up to him, but they had to stop as Yuan's sword chi aimed at Yuchan's another arm. Why you? Stop. You take one more step, and I'll cut his other arm off too. And no. It looked like Yuan would really do it. He had done a lot of wicked things in the past, so it didn't seem like Yuan was bluffing. He might really do it. Yuchan's members then backed away. Now. Keep the promise. Yuan looked down at Yuchan's pale face. Yuchan then looked up with a painful expression, unable to comprehend what had just happened. What did you just do? Do what? How can you make such a powerful formation with the mere 7-demon sword? Although the 7-demon sword was from the legendary sword demon, it was still only a top-class martial art. Yuan's sword formation was beyond what that sword skill could do. The Blade of Illusion skill, one of the top 3 blade skills in the cult, was no match against it. Mia? 7-demon sword? Yeah. If that's how you saw it, then you have a long way to go before talking about the formation. Yuchan was baffled. Yuan just spoke to him the same way that Yuchan once spoke to Yuan back in the day. Of course, Yuchan really didn't comprehend the counter-sword skill left by the sword demon. Yuchan became bitter. I tried hard to become the heir. It was now all gone. He lost to Yuan when he had both arms and now only his left arm was left. Moreover, he had trained the blade skill with his right arm mainly, so this meant he was now considerably weaker. There was no way he could compete against Chun Kungwan from the Sword Clan either. Yuchan then became angry. Yuchan gritted his teeth and ordered, "Give him all the yellow tags." Yuchan's members turned grim. If they gave these up, then they would also lose the right to take the third test. Yet, Chun Yuchan had made a promise, so they had to keep it. Chun Yuan, ugh, don't think, this is the end. Yuchan then fell due to loss of blood. He did lose and he lost a lot of things he had, but he still hadn't given up yet. This gave hope to his members too. Humph. Wu Gunpil took his yellow tag and handed it over to Yuan while glaring at him. Gunpil then warned, "Don't think this is." Before he could finish, Yuan's fist struck his stomach. Arg. Gunpil spat out blood and fell to the ground in pain. He panted as if he couldn't breathe and looked up weakly. Arg. What is this? We kept the promise. I didn't promise to stop after getting the tags. What? Gunpil was shocked. Yoan then looked at Yuchan and said, I learned a good lesson from him. What was it? Never leave any loose ends? Gunpil felt a chill run down his spine. Yoan was talking about Chun Yuchan cutting the muscles of the fake Chun Yoan. He was basically saying that he was going to get rid of Yuchan's members too. You are an evil man, we lost but you still? Ugh. Yoan punched his face before he could finish, making him pass out. Yoan then glared disgustingly at Gunpil. You can do it, but I can't? And that makes me evil? Don't give me that bullshit. Yuchan's members then realized things weren't going well and prepared to defend themselves. Yoan shouted to his members, defeat them and break their arms and legs. Yes. Yoan's members and the cadets from the 12th group immediately charged in. Didemi. This was the worst case scenario for Yuchan's team. Their best warriors, Yuchan and Gunpil, were gone and Jinyu also was in bad shape since he had taken internal damage from his exchange with Yoan a while ago. Damn it. I can't do this alone. We're done for. The only remaining master-level warrior Ojirun gritted her teeth. They were badly outnumbered too. And after a few minutes, it was almost over. All the members on Yuchan's team were subdued except 3 or 4 who ran away when the fight began. Yoan did not go after them since they weren't that loyal. Aarg. My leg. The screams continued as Yoan and his members broke the arms and legs of Yuchan's members. They didn't leave Ojirun, a girl cadet, out either. Aarg. We never should try to fight him anymore. Yuchan's members lost all will to resist their fear, after their arms and legs were broken. When everything was over, Yoan called Galen who was trying to send all the defeated enemies to the medical room. Yoan then gave him 2 yellow tags. Take them. This is. Galen was shocked. He didn't think Yoan would give him the yellow tags. Why? He and his group had taken part in attacking Baki last night, so he didn't wish to receive any tags. He just wanted to take part in getting revenge against Chun Yuchan. These tags don't mean anything to me. Yoan now had a total of 6 yellow tags. 1 from Ho Jincheng, 1 from Ha Ilming, and 4 from Chun Yuchan. Galen was astonished. He can still keep it to lessen the competition and he still decides to give them away. This guy is different. Galen and the 12th group cadets were impressed. Galen then hesitated. We are now officially enemies of the Blade clan. Maybe it would be better for us to help Prince Chun Yoan become the heir. Ko Wonger noticed Galen's hesitation and became intrigued. It was Wonger who told Yoan to give the yellow tags up. It was to make more allies in the upcoming competition. Let's hope it works. Galen and the cadets looked at Yoan with respect and admiration. But this wasn't enough. And did it work? All 19 cadets including Galen knelt down. What is this? Yoan asked calmly. Galen and his cadets then put their head to the ground and shouted, we want to pledge our allegiance to Prince Chun. Please accept us. A faint smile appeared on Yoan's face.